Yeah, I mean, trust you me, it makes sense to learn that. I can tell you that.
Okay. Welcome, ladies. We have the other participants should be logging in shortly. Um, Thank you for taking seconds, so a couple minutes of your busy schedules to give to little old me. We're gonna jump right into this because we only here for 60 minutes. I tell you, near 30 minutes, but we're here for 60 minutes because she don't go eat pork chop. She don't go eat pork chop.
You know, as you can hear, Liam trying his best to not beat the pork chop while we're
I
talking.
know. All right. Let me see if this. Are you sure? The first question. First question. Dominica just. Hello, Dominica.
Hi.
Do you need more sushi today?
No, not today.
All right. Like I said, I'm not gonna keep you guys long today. The first question I have will be this one here.
Gets pregnant, he tells her that he is not.
Oh, sorry. The first question will be this one right here.
Mixed reaction from members of the public on whether or not trans education should be introduced in the school's curriculum. It's a suggestion made by Bahamas Union of Teachers President Belinda Wilson last week. The issue creating a firestorm on social media, and many users say they saw no need for educational officials to even entertain the idea. And those we spoke to today agreed.
I am against transgender education being taught in schools. Not if that's the lifestyle you want to live, that's no problem. But don't push it on our kids. Don't push it on my kids.
Yeah, I don't feel like the Bahamians are ready yet for this transition. You know, I think if you bring it into the schools and all of that, it's only going to open their minds to it, and then some of them might want to try it.
So you get the gist of it. So the first question is: should transgender education be taught in Bahamian schools? Anybody could jump in.
My view would be that you could educate persons as it relates to anything, but I would like to really know as a parent what is the purpose behind training or teaching or educating my children on transgender, exactly what is being taught and why. I recall being in a particular group where that was shared that that's what they're doing. As a matter of fact, one of the ladies who is in fact, I can't recall what her title is in the educational system, actually indicated that they are in fact teaching sex education, transgender teaching and educating as it relates to transgenders in the schools as we speak. She said that there were teachers who disagreed with it. So if they were uncomfortable teaching it, that she would be called in to speak about it. And I recall asking her, okay, if it's from an educational standpoint, I can't remember if I asked her what exactly. I asked, I think, what exactly are they teaching? And I don't think she was able at that point to tell me the extent of what it is they're so-called teaching the children regarding transgender. So I asked her whether or not, for example, they're also teaching children, if you're looking at it from an educational standpoint, are you teaching children about other sexual proclivities? Could you please move, LJ? For example, like bestiality. You have people who are interested in having sex with animals, for example, and that is not to necessarily discount the movement of transgenderism and how they may feel, but exactly what is being taught to students. And that would be my main question, because my principal view is that is not something I would want to be taught to my children. Okay, but it depends on also where they're going with it. That's my view.
So you want to jump in?
I agree with Anishka actually. My thing is, what are they teaching? What is transgender? What are they trying to say? What are they saying that they're going to teach our children? I know for a fact that our children need to be taught about sex, genders. I get that. But what do you mean by you're teaching my child or the children about transgender education? What is that?
Mhm.
Like that's my question. So I agree with you, Anishka. What is that? What do you mean you gonna teach the kids about transgender education? That doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't make sense to me.
I guess they want to be inclusive. They want to.
They're people. We've included them as people. That's what they are.
Right.
What is the purpose, though?
That's my point too. I mean, and that is what I truly would like to glean.
Well,
If you remember, sorry, Jonathan, but if you remember, I think the prime minister was talking he was doing a speech one time, and this gentleman he jumped up. What about the transgender people or something of that nature? He
yeah,
said, and the prime
I
minister
remember.
said, right. The prime minister said, but didn't I say the Bahamian people? So what are you? Are you something different? I mean, that's what I'm trying to understand. Like, what is it that you're teaching? What is it? That's
My whole synopsis on this transgender and ABC set of people, no disrespect to anybody, but I feel like they're so fixated on pushing their agenda on people that they are going to any length to do it. Um, Before time, you never used to see these things on the television. Now every channel has it. So if they're not getting to us through the television, they're going through the children.
Right.
Is that how
That's
that's how they get to us? If
Sesame
this is a if this is a lifestyle that they want to have, no one's knocking their lifestyle, but don't force it on me. Don't force it on my children. If that's something my child who is coming up want to get into, let that be their choice, not because it's taught to them.
And that is what I have a problem with. I have a problem because, in my view, I'm hearing this technical, what seems to be this, it's a disguised view. Oh, we're just it's education. Educating what? What is the purpose? You
Exactly.
understand?
well,
To
let me
me,
show.
it's
Sorry.
a deceptive view. You know what
Let
I
me show this.
mean?
Just show this video right quick, and let me know if we're ready to be this progressive.
A family can be made up in many different ways.
It's called SOGI, for Sexual Orientation and Gender Identification, a curriculum that teaches public school students across Canada to celebrate the homosexual lifestyle and that gender is fluid. In other words, your gender is not dependent on what parts you were born with, but rather what you feel like in the moment.
There's people that are boys, there's people that are girls. There are people whose gender might be a little bit of both or might even be neither.
Lessons include books about transgender children, such as 10,000 Dresses, and songs like The Rainbow Song.
Gender won't decide the choices we make. Some boys like dressing up, some girls like catching snakes.
The SOGI curriculum started in British Columbia in 2016 and is quickly spreading throughout Canada.
I just thought, who decided that this was okay to teach our children?
Author and inspirational speaker Laura Lynn Tyler Thompson is a leading voice against the SOGI curriculum.
And we are seeing the results of that now because some kids are reacting very emotionally and saying, and they're in fear. Will I suddenly struggle with feeling like a different gender inside of my body?
Carrie Simpson of Culture Guard, another leading opponent, calls the curriculum nothing short of child abuse.
All those beautiful qualities that make young girls, beautiful girls and women, are being basically vilified. The things that make our boys boys are being, taken from them. So things of equating young.
At the point. So my question to you is, this being going on for, you see that from 2016 and probably beyond that, we might say, we may not be ready for it, but when the United States start to push certain things, because they had the rainbow flag, which is, I guess, being inclusive. But my question is, should we fight against this, or should we welcome this in their
First of all,
curriculum?
you use the term progressive. There's nothing progressive in my view about that, the lifestyle. That's the first thing. But to answer your question more directly, as a mother to my children, I would certainly advocate and agitate against that.
Yes.
If they were to do something like that, to teach my children, that's one lesson they would be allowed to protest and come out of the class if need be. And if they get a big fat F as a result of it, that's fine with me. But that's not something that is not something that I endorse. It's not something that I support. I respect human rights of individuals, and that's all individuals. However, no, that's not my belief system, and that's not something that I would push. I don't push it in my home, and it's certainly not something that I would permit someone else to do.
They would call you closed-minded.
That's okay.
That's fine.
That's okay. And that's truly okay.
My thing is, you can't talk out of both sides of your mouth. If we are a Christian nation, or we claim to be a Christian nation, how can we then say we accepting all of these things just because we trying to fall in line? It's either you are or you aren't. You have to pick a side.
I personally would like to have a discourse with someone who is a transgender. As a matter of fact, I met with someone, one of the individuals is in fact in the group that I'm in, this group. And it's actually a child advocacy group where this person is in, to my surprise. Nevertheless, this is their view on how they live. And I may not necessarily debate what you believe to be your belief system or what you feel should be for you, but I understand quite well what's not going to be for me. And it's as simple as that, because clearly I remember asking and wanting to find out what exactly are you truly saying, and the person said what they said at the time, and to me it made no sense, to be honest with you, but that's their view, and I respect their view, because as a woman you can you're a man, Jonathan, and you decide you feel like a woman, and yet somehow you become, or you understand what it is I am as a woman. I find that is quite disrespectful, to be honest with you. You understand? That simply because you want to be a woman, or you feel like you're a woman, you're now a woman. You know what I mean? And you're trying to confuse everybody else and everything else simply because you have a particular view, and that to me is just not right. It's okay if, for example, you feel like that is the lifestyle you want for you. If that is what you want to choose, fine and good. But let's not try to call, try to confuse things and, what I mean, make things completely ambiguous simply because it suits you.
They may call
That's
you
not fair.
Fox, go ahead. What's your 2 cents on this before we move on?
I agree with everyone so far, and I'll be honest with you, as someone who I can't even stand to see, and this might be a little controversial in any case, but in my mind, right, the definition of, let's go from the base of it, being gay means you're attracted to the same sex, right? That's completely different from acting like the opposite sex, if you get what I mean. And I can't stand to see, especially Black men, because nowhere in history that was a part of our culture. At no point in history. We already know where it came from, right? But I hate to see Black men mocking Black women. If you look at flamboyant gays, not when guys who just, I attracted to men and you still masculine, right? because your bedroom business is yours. Ain't nobody even need to know that. But your mannerisms, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way your wrist movements, everything like that. No other group of women act like that outside of Black women. So where they getting it from? They mocking Black women, and I hate to see Black women supporting those type of guys because it's like you could have.
But that's who supporting it, Black women. They're the allies.
And I don't understand that because it's like it's almost like it's a costume that they putting on and acting like Black women.
Black
And
face.
That's
like
that.
Black face.
You know what I mean? But outside of that, I don't think we should subscribe to any type of delusion because that's basically what it is. You can't tell me as a man now you feel like a woman. What do you mean you feel like a woman? You know anything what women go through?
Exactly.
Anything, and vice versa. So it's like, where y'all getting this from? And to how people indoctrinating children when they're so impressionable at that age, it's like you giving them like to do. If you give kids they'll say they feel like Daffy Duck. They'll feel like Bugs Bunny. What in their mind? How is that different from telling them that they are of the opposite gender, right? On top of that, how many girls were tomboys when they were younger? You know what I mean? So you ain't even giving them a chance to understand their own life, their own bodies, their own mindset to say, you know what? I am a girl, but I also like things that predominantly boys like. There's nothing wrong with that. You're not a boy just because you like boyish stuff. You know what I mean? So I just hate that whole thing. And if they try to bring that over here, trust me, we wouldn't have schools. I don't think the Bahamas as a whole even entertaining that stupidness, bro. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it thus far.
And how you feel about that? Al?
Sorry, me?
Yeah. Do you think transgender education should be taught?
Apologize, I didn't hear the.
Yeah, the primary question is: should transgender education be taught in primary schools and high schools? Transgender education.
No. And oh.
Why not?
Why?
To be more based on it's a clip we watch, and to be more inclusive, to be progressive, to prepare the kids for what they may encounter for when they go off to school or when they may encounter these kids. And because they had a transgender girl or boy in one of the private schools over here already, and that made a big hoopla. I don't know if you heard it, you guys saw it. Did you guys hear about that?
Well, I don't think you should even recognize transgender, and I don't think that children should be allowed to even be considering changing their gender as children. As children, we're not allowed to make decisions for our lives. We're under the care of our parents or guardians. And so I don't think I think that's a dangerous thing to be having them make determinations on at that age.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, we'll see. Hopefully it don't come here, but buddy, when the United States sneeze, we catch cold. They going full-fledged with this.
No, but we have masks now, so we need to put the masks on and we have to make decisions for ourselves in the Bahamas, and we have to be ourselves. We're the Bahamas and we don't do that.
All right, let's go. Like I said, I promise not to keep you guys too long tonight. All right, we all grew up back in the day, getting beaten, getting spanked, into back in the day that was the norm. So, do you feel corporal punishment should be? I don't know. I think it's already banned in schools. I think so. But do you think corporal punishment or spanking kids should be outlawed in the Bahamas? Should parents be prosecuted for spanking or hitting their kids? Hold on, I just want you all to see this right quick.
Let me keep Caleb unsupervised, all because I spanked him a couple times.
Oh, you can't spank no kids nowadays, boy. That's child abuse. You can get locked up.
Well, there's other ways to discipline your kids, right?
Like what? Timeout? Timeout may be good for Timmy, but it do not work on Darnell.
No, it don't even work for Timmy. You see how them little white kids be cussing their mother out in the grocery store?
I hate you, Mom.
You never loved me.
I think that you could talk to your kids and work out any behavioral issues. You don't always have to spank.
Do you have kids?
Not yet.
I could tell.
You can tell, right?
So, so the question is, like I posed before, should it's 2023. We signed into a lot of treaties. Our governments, well, we don't really know what all the treaties we signed on already. Talking about the previous question, we may already sign on the treaty that we need to be more inclusive. We don't even know. They don't tell us nothing. But I mean, that's neither here nor there. So, go 2023. Should parents now be banned for spanking or hitting their kids? Anybody could jump in and answer that first question. And also, the other question onto that is, should corporal punishment or spanking be banned in schools if it isn't already? Or should it be brought back? Anybody?
Piggybacking.
Go ahead.
I'm not certain. I can't remember who stated that we're a Christian nation, and it states, "Spare the rod, spoil the child." So if you notice how our schools are going right now, if like what you said earlier, that has already been taken out, and you notice how our schools are going now, I don't think that we should take it out of schools. I just feel as if it should not be to the point, or you should not beat a child when you're angry. That's one. And you should not have a child being beaten in school when a teacher is angry. I remember going to school, the headmaster used to give us spikes in our hands or whatever, or they could stipulate exactly where you could be hit, where you could be beaten or something of that nature. I don't think it should be taken away. That's just how I feel.
Anishka?
Well, my view is I grew up getting beaten. Okay, now it doesn't mean that getting beaten is something. I think that just like Sunita said, and I agree with her, a lot of us as parents too, we have to recognize that children are human beings too, and sometimes it's very easy when you're frustrated or you're angry to beat, and we have to be very careful with that. You understand? We have to be wise. If we could find other means to discipline children, because there are other effective means and ways to discipline children too. I don't think that should necessarily exclude corporal punishment, but corporal punishment need not be the only thing you run to. You know what I mean? And we have to be careful, because I don't think we need to be so quick, especially in the Bahamas, where culturally many of us have gotten beaten as children, to try to now, because we are so-called aware or educated, all of a sudden, you shouldn't beat a child, you know what I mean? And we're going to throw the book at you. We have to educate and really try to educate people in an honest fashion, not in a fashion where you trying to act as if you only, because many of our leaders, to me, pretty much they do a lot of grandstanding. If it seems like an international body or somebody has an issue, then they will make it seem like, oh yes, it's an issue, and we want children, the parents to be locked up. And I think we have to be realistic. We have a culture, society culturally, where our children got beaten or they got spanking. I did, so I am not totally against it, but I am against hitting children out of anger and out of frustration. And you have to be very careful that in selecting whatever discipline, you're not doing it. You just have to be wise in what you're doing. You know what I mean? Because some people just go a little far, and then some people, they take out their frustrations on the child, and the child can't do nothing about it. You understand? Because they're young, they're dependents. So you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you're completely taking advantage of a child. Because I remember even in school too, you have some principals, boy, they would put a wailing on you, but their children was some of the baddest children, and they never, they wondered why did they ever get beat, but they'll wail your tail or wail other people's children's tail. So in that regard, I am not too, I don't know if especially in this generation, at this time, if I really like the idea of strangers disciplining children corporally. Okay, I don't know of how because a lot has changed over time, and how when you have a love or true care for a child, you could be taking out your frustration on a child too. You understand? And I think discipline should be void of that, void of anger and void of frustration. It should be meant to discipline. So we could learn some other means and mechanisms to discipline outside of corporal punishment, but I'm not against corporal punishment.
L.
I agree with Anishka with the disciplinary action not being out of anger. And I'll add to that, it should also not be violent.
No.
And a lot of times people think that only the physical is violent, but you also have emotional and
That's
psychological
true.
violence. So I
Exactly.
think discipline should never be violent in any way. That's for the parents. When it comes to the schools, I think the school should have a disciplinary policy that they can show to the parents and let the parents, let that be a deciding factor as to, is this a school that I'd like for my child to come to? And in that whole process, be very transparent about what the school does um, when it comes to discipline so that the parents could choose, is this the school that I want my child to go to?
Ontario. You got the question?
What was your question? Sorry.
The question is: should corporal punishment or beating kids should be banned in school, and should parents be prosecuted or prohibited from spanking or beating their kids?
I don't think prosecuted or anything for beating. Most of these kids need it. And in growing up in a school system where I was disciplined only by virtue of my wrongdoing, I think it was fair. I was never abused in school. We got the lashes in your hand or on your back. But those things, unlike I guess most people may think, those things taught me lessons, which is why I don't get in trouble now because everything has a consequence. There's a consequential action for every action that you do. And I think most of the times when this new generation is raised with the perception that any wrong that you do is just forgivable or it's positive, like we give the impression without punishment that everything can just go away. And most of the time, that's I think why a lot of the problems that we have, like societal problems we have now, is because people are unaware of the real consequences of actions because they do things and they always shield it from consequence. So I think that gives kids an example of consequence. Of course, I'm not an advocate for abuse or over, if it's done in excess, etc., or like you said with anger. But a part of disciplinary action does come from a frustration, a point of frustration, not necessarily for the person that has to exact discipline, but it is a process of saying that you have done something that has passed the point of reason that you are understanding. So there's something that has to be done so that you understand there is a consequence to the action. Because verbal cues and the verbal aspect of it, it doesn't truly, it works. People could feel love, and love doesn't stop you from doing wrong. That's just a person that is pacifying you in some cases. In other cases, you need to understand that there is an exact correlation between wrong and consequence. And if you see that the consequence is minute, but that minute consequence hurts, sometimes it could save you from making the bigger mistakes later in life, thinking that nobody's going to check you on it. So that's my personal opinion of it. Like I said, I'm just not an advocate of abuse when parents are literally taking out their frustrations on their kids, or educators or whomever is just taking out their general frustration. But if it's done correctly, it will work. And that's my personal opinion on it.
Cohen?
I agree with everyone. Not odd, to be honest. I do think there's a difference between disciplining someone and abuse. And from what I remember, we usually used to have one person designated inside school to carry out that discipline, either the dean, the senior master, and
Principal.
that, and in some cases, shoot, they used to do it in public too, so everyone could see what's going on. You know what I mean? So I think that aspect of it would have to start from earlier, though. We can't wait until high school and then discipline kids. You know what I mean? And part of it too is parents actually giving teachers and disciplinarians the respect and the authority to do certain stuff. And of course, that's where the community needs to come back to, because I don't think any parent would feel comfortable with a stranger disciplining their kids. You know what I mean? So get to know the teachers at the school, establish that respect boundary between your kids and them, because it have to be a situation where you know the teachers well enough and have a relationship with them to the point where if your child say, okay, I got in problems today because the teacher was picking on me. Okay, no, I can call up the teacher, find out what you did, instead of just going up to the school. Oh, why you touch my child? That don't make no sense, because now you basically kill that respect level. So no matter what, that teacher has no say over that child anymore. You know what I mean? So if they designate it to one person like they used to in school, if we have a way where teachers and parents can have a relationship again, and that communication is there, I don't think.
No.
Because I mean, what would your alternative be? The merits? I don't think no one on the panel
Time
was
out.
getting merits.
Time out.
Sorry, can I say one thing too? I just realized that you guys are defining the teachers as the strangers that are disciplining your kids. That's what you're strangers?
Some teachers are strangers, yes.
So let me
Some
get this.
parents are strangers as well.
Yes.
Drop the child off.
Mm-hmm.
Oh Lord, yeah.
Yeah, no, in my view, some teachers are strangers,
what I'm
because at
saying-
the end of the day, it is no, see, as a parent, I am the primary caretaker of my children. There are teachers within the system who have even been before the courts for crossing the lines. Okay, if parents can conduct themselves in ways that violates the relationship between child and authority figure, the same can happen with a teacher as well.
Yeah. And I think that's where it's important that, let's say, for instance, because sometimes beating don't help some people. It's whatever they're afraid to lose in a lot of situations. If parents already have that established respect boundary with their kids, and okay, you don't want someone else beating your child, you have to be able to talk to that teacher, and that teacher has to have the communication where, okay, your child gets in trouble, right? They have to feel confident enough. I could call your parents, and from the fear of me having to call your mommy or daddy, you can straighten up. You know what I mean? Something have to be there, because shoot, sometime you have, and I think everyone experiences too. You had maybe one or two students, they will be in the dean's office every day getting spanking, and they don't do nothing. But when you look at with their parents, that ain't there. They have no fear as far as respect for their parents, so they ain't gonna other adults. You know what I mean? So I believe between parents, their kids, and the establishment that's teaching and disciplining them.
May I say something real quick?
I can't.
Just on what he was talking about with the schools. When we were in school, the population was much smaller and the classrooms were much smaller. Now the classrooms are huge, the schools are big, and the parent-teacher relationship isn't as close as it used to be. So whereas they may not be able to pick up the phone and call all the time, at least if the parent has the knowledge of how the school disciplines and they agree to it, then they walk into it knowing that this is how the school disciplines, and they sort of buy into it, agree to it, and approve it in advance.
Ontario, you were saying?
No, sorry. I was saying I know my call got cut out in the middle of what I was saying, but I was saying that I can't literally think that at this stage in life we're still defining teachers or educators as strangers taking care of our kids, because most times they spend more times with our kids than us. So in this case, in the education system, during the age of 5 to 15, we are more the strangers than the teachers are to our kids.
Because of course all the habits that they get, their learning habits, their attitude, everything they really adapt from their teachers and their educators, where they are, their peers. They gain their aspect of knowledge from school, not from parents. We pay for them to learn, but we don't teach them. The only thing we do is reinforce the notion that is taught in school. So I think that if a child is gonna be there, that's like saying if my child lives with my mother can't discipline my child. It just doesn't make sense.
That is certainly not what I'm saying. If I hear your point, but that's certainly not what it is I'm saying.
Okay, so I mean, when you guys said this, I asked if that was the strangers that we're referring to in the conversation.
You also indicated that the parents are more likely the strangers. I mean, my thing is you defending teachers not being considered strangers as opposed to parents.
Well,
I'm not a stranger in my children's lives.
The reason why I say this is this, right? I remember growing up in school. I had a teacher named Ms. Turnquest. Okay, so from grade 1, grade 6, Ms. Turnquest taught me everything. How to manage anger, how to do the things that my mother didn't teach me, because my mother only want to know, you do what you had to do in school today? You do your work? You do this? Yes. I go to sleep, I eat with my mother, I go to sleep, my mother, I go to bed. I come from school 3 o'clock. I don't get to my mommy don't get home till 5, 6 o'clock. I go to bed by 8, I back up at 7, and I back in school. So who's teaching me? The only time
that's not what's in my household, and I can't speak to how it is you feel.
No, I understand,
because you can only speak about your experience.
May be special. Your household may be indifferent and special, but the reality of most kids that are educated in a public or private school system, they are educated by their teachers. The parents assist.
I grew up in the public school system. My children went to the private school system, but I've been through both. And my parents were instrumental in my training. I see, this is where, for example, when you say that to me, it almost sounds like the 80-20 rule, where you actually take for granted what you're learning at home. You're actually taking for granted, and maybe because there are instances where, for true, some parents are not doing what they're supposed to do. There are instances like that. But there are also instances where some teachers are not conducting themselves in a manner in which, so I'm only talking from a scope or from the standpoint that, you have to be aware of all circumstances generally. Right. When my children go to school, I am concerned about certainly whose care they're in, but I also recognize there's some things about the individual I do not know.
But let me ask you this, and I always say this part, right? You know who knows most about your kid, aside from you?
Their friends.
Their friends. And the person that watches them and their friends every day and all day? Their teacher. Their teacher could sit down. Yeah, she's cool. She's cool.
They don't.
Huh?
Let's get that clear. Teachers don't watch kids. The majority of teachers that are in the system today, especially the government system, they are given a curriculum and they teach. Back in the day, I remember going to school, and on the same forum, I would say it many times. I went to school because I came from a very abusive home. And I would go to school and teachers would see the marks on my body. They would see bruises. They would see my clothes untidy, and nobody would ask a question. And even if it was brought up in conversation and somebody pulled me aside and asked a question, that's as far as it went. Nobody did anything. And it's even worse now. A lot of teachers that go into the system, they only care about that paycheck. They're not that instrumental in our children's life. They come and they teach that curriculum and they go home. Very seldom. You could probably count the amount of teachers in the system or at a particular school who are invested in their students. And it ain't much of them.
And see, what needs to be understood is training and teaching a child is not just on what's on a curriculum. Children learn social skills, can learn social skills and other things everywhere. Okay? But at the end of the day, ideally, again, like I said, you could find lacks in the home. You could find a situation that's lacking outside of the home. But the reality is, don't discount the effect of your home. The home is a powerful, very powerful breeding ground.
Everything starts.
Don't get me
from the
wrong. Don't get me wrong. Yeah,
Because I can tell you one thing, most of these teachers, if they have to deal, and I'm not, again, discounting what teachers do. Don't take what I'm saying within context. But I could tell you if today or tomorrow something truly happens with your children, you didn't get children, the teachers could be standing in front of a courtroom for your child. Who you think could be standing in front of a courtroom?
I think what you're getting wrong is the point. Like I said, I don't know the lady's name with the glasses on, but what she spoke about was a teacher stepping in when they notice something. I'm not saying that that's not their job in most cases. That's used to be their job, where teachers were or pretty much trained as guidance counselors and you know, all that other aspects of it. Of almost wanting to be therapists for kids. In some cases, they were the communicators for kids. That's what they were trained to do. But nowadays, like you said, it's more about the paycheck. However, the observation that most parents could make, the same thing that they put in a report card, the same thing that they could put in a progress report, because they are with your kid most times. They know when your child get in a fight. They know when your child arguing with somebody before your child tell you. They know if your daughter little extra this or your son little extra that. They see those things. Not that they observe and report, but they can see it because they interact.
I can see it too.
Right, you know what I'm saying? You can see it. But
I can see it too.
As a parent,
how you foster the relationship with your children. I remember me growing up, right? I had a friend who felt like, oh boy, your mommy and daddy, they so strict with y'all. When y'all get it, y'all gonna be wild. And that was never my story. My parents, even though they were at the time while they were alive, they were structured and all that different stuff. I also felt the love from my parents. I feel like my childhood was a very good one. You know what I mean?
But would you admit that there are a lot of parents who are working two jobs, who may don't have a two-parent home, who may come from a single parent, single father, or single
mother?
I
did too, because even though my parents were married, my father died when I was 10. So my mother spent a lot of things changed with, you know, from having that two-parent home to now transitioning into that one-parent home. But at the same time, I still had a mother who at the time, my mother's now deceased, but I had a mother at the time who did her best. She did her best to be there. And I think children understand a whole lot more than we understand them too, you know? But again, there are varying situations. So we sort of, or me, you know, speaking about that hypotheticals or whatever the case may be, does not answer people's specific questions. But my whole point is, at the end of the day, a parent definitely, I mean, your children going to school, but the most powerful influence really should come from the home.
So basically, the consensus is spankings should not be, corporal punishment shouldn't be removed from schools, and if it has to be administered, it should be administered correctly. Is what you're saying? That's a general consensus.
Yeah.
Yep.
It appears so. Yeah.
And I want to deviate briefly to this one particular topic that I heard what's going on, and that's about. And do you think marital rape could happen in a marriage?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's I'll be hearing this topic.
Hey Johnny, you could make the live public.
No, I did. It's on my page. That's what I was doing. It's live now. Tell them to go on my page and it's live.
All right.
Rape is rape.
Bye, Sunita. Sunita's got to go get. She's leaving now. Thank you so much, Sunita. The question is.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
The question is marital rape. What's your views on that? Just overall, what's your views on that, real quick?
Rape is rape.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So rape is rape, and because marriage is a part of the equation, doesn't change the definition of rape.
Right, close the door back.
Sorry?
See, that's Bahamian style right there. Hey, you want a live, miss?
I'm
Just
sorry.
Like come in the back here, hailing, like get in the room.
So
yeah.
Rape is rape.
Yeah, inside or outside of marriage, rape is rape.
I'll tell you what my view is, El, and to your listening audience, Jonathan. I've been a prosecutor, and understanding the definition of rape. Rape is lack of consent. A lot of people tend to think rape has to do with abuse and all that different stuff. No, rape is lack of consent, which means if I'm having sexual intercourse with my husband, if I say to him, stop, I don't have to scream that out. I don't have to be alarmed or anything. Once I say stop, anything beyond that is rape.
Correct.
Now, having that understanding from a criminal standpoint, I do not see where that is practical in a marriage situation. And I'll tell you why. We also have, according to Section 16 of the Sexual Offenses Act, I don't know if it's changed, what could be considered rape in a marital setting, right? And I think practically it truly makes sense. Because if as a woman you are afraid to go to the civil courts or go and tell somebody, listen, this man touching me and I don't want him to touch me, because that's all it takes, you know. If at the end of the day I'm being abused sexually in my marriage, I could leave that man, or I could say to you, El, listen, this man touching me and I don't want him to touch me. Let me take some reasonable steps to bring a separation between us. Okay? Because like I said, if you don't have the courage to do that, if you go through a criminal court before a jury, I could tell you haven't been a prosecutor. Women ain't going no court. First of all, go into no police officer to sit down to report rape, because largely it's going to become your word against his word, because at the end of the day, y'all have a sexual relationship. Sexual intimacy is presumed. You see? So if me and my husband, we have we continue to have sex or whatever the case may be, and for whatever reason, I feel, okay, this man raped me. It's very unlikely, if you understood the steps and stages before I even prosecute the matter, that a woman or wife of a wife is going to go to the police, report that matter, then go in the front of a jury, a judge and jury, to tell a story, to convince them, to persuade these individuals that she's being raped.
So if you're taking this from a court standpoint, I mean, that adds another dimension to the whole topic. So of course, many women, even not married, may not have the courage or may not have the evidence or the strength to go to a court to prove something. So I think that's a secondary issue.
No, but that's not the only point I raised. The most principal point I raised was the fact that rape means non-consent.
Correct.
So if there's me and my husband are we could be having loving sex, and the minute I say stop, I don't have to scream that out. That's rape. Now, for me, in my marriage, I don't see where that's something, because I'm looking at it, and I guess the standpoint that I'm speaking of it at comes from the discourse they had about criminalizing when you're talking about rape.
Yeah, so that's the second layer.
From that standpoint. Okay, certainly a woman could be abused sexually in a marriage. Okay, from a
woman could be raped in a marriage.
Yeah, well, I mean, rape is abuse.
It's one type of abuse, right? But I'm saying they can specifically be raped in a marriage, because like you said, rape is lack of consent. Now, if I take out the second layer, if I don't get yet to the second layer of how you would deal with that in court, the fact of the matter is your husband, if you're married, can rape you.
Let me tell you what I think people should do, and this comes from me as a married woman. I don't want it in my marriage. What needs to happen for the women who wants that in their marriage? You know, you always have to go and get a marriage license, right? Let there be a box that you tick that says marital rape. What that means is both you and your spouse to be has an understanding of what rape is. That if at the end of the day, I'm telling you, because there are a lot of people who don't understand what rape is. A lot of people look at rape as bruises and all that different stuff. Some people like rough sex. So I am saying, from a practical standpoint, right? If, for example, you feel that this is what you want for your marriage, I think from the point of the marriage license, that should be ticked.
I think what I'm saying is that rape doesn't have anything to do with marriage specifically, whether you're married or not. If you do not give consent, you're raped. That's what I'm saying.
Well, technically, I have a different view because I feel like, from a biblical standpoint, my body is his body. Okay.
Yeah, but from a biblical standpoint, you're supposed to love your wife like Christ loved the church.
No, I
So
agree
if
with
you're
that.
going from the Bible, you're not going to get raped by your husband.
But you're making the point, though.
But that's it.
No, but see, you're making the technical point that comes back to what is a marriage institution. A marriage, presumed in a marital relationship, is sex. And sex is
Yes, but I'm saying to you, like, for instance, if you're in a situation, let's give
sex in a marriage is not predicated upon me consenting. Where you have to know whether or not, no, listen to what I'm saying. Where you have to know at every time we decide to have sex, I am saying yes. Not if me and my husband are laying in the bed on the side of each other, I don't think he needs to ask me, Anushka, do you want to have sex now?
No, I think you're adding to it. We're not saying to ask.
No,
but non-consensual, you described earlier that you could be in a space with someone and you can say no. You don't have to shout it, but you can choose to say no. Once somebody overrides your decision, it doesn't have to be asking for. But if somebody says no, stand down, and you do not, and you force yourself on someone, whether you're married or not, that's rape. But we can agree to disagree. But that's my view.
But I agree. I think the fix for it, because if you ask many married women, and I haven't asked you if you're married, but if you ask any or most married women, because most people who are arguing this point are not married people. But my thing is, if you are a married individual and you feel that way, tick the box on the marriage license so the man understands that you have a woman who, if she feels at the end of the day she gets mad with you or you get mad with her, and she says, let me set this man up, even though this is my husband, and we could presume we have a sexual relationship that is presumed. The minute he touches me, I could say stop, and then I could run to the
but nobody's saying that. You're saying that.
Because that is
nobody wants to. Nobody's going to go to a court and say there's a provision in my marriage that I want in case. I mean, you can also fake that a man abused you physically. So we're not talking about. No, I think that's ridiculous.
But understand what I'm saying. There are different types of physical abuse. Sexual abuse is part of that, right? No, you when you get married, you don't get married for a man or a woman to hit each other. When I sign up, I don't sign up for a man to fight me or vice versa, right? But in a marriage, listen, I was a virgin until I got married. This is my second marriage, right? And I was looking forward to having a marriage where I could actually be able to be free. Okay? I'm simply saying, I accept the view that we can agree to disagree. My whole point of view is, as a married woman, understanding also, having been a prosecutor for the amount of time that the years that I've been a prosecutor, seeing the dynamics in the courtroom, but also understanding that rape has nothing to do. Everyone is arguing, he could be beating her and abusing her. That's not rape. Rape is non-consent.
Yes,
now, that's what you want. If that's what a married woman wants in her marriage, where it boils down to that technical point, that's all I'm saying. If that's what you want in your marriage, you tick a box. Let there be a law, and you.
No, this isn't personal to me, Anushka. This is not personal to me. This is an issue of what marriage is and what rape is. And I'm saying in everybody's marriage, if sex is non-consensual, it is rape. It's not about ticking a box, and it's not personal to me or to someone else. If somebody refuses to accept that you have not given consent and you've said, no, this is not what I want to do at this moment, that is rape. If somebody forces himself on you, that is rape. The fact that you're married doesn't mean that if you are at a place for whatever reason that you are not prepared to do that at this moment, and you don't have the right to say not at this moment, and you are forced upon, that is rape. It doesn't matter
Just
if you're married.
understand that there are many married women who do not share that view, and that's where I guess, as you indicated earlier, we could agree to disagree.
We should definitely.
And yeah, I think at the end of the day, people have to truly be educated as to what rape really is.
I believe the same. And not rape just from the court system, but rape as in real life, because everything isn't taken from a
And I
court
agree
system.
with that, and I agree with your viewpoint, because abuse, even in that fashion, could happen. I accept that, even in the context of marriage, sexual abuse as well. But my point is, at the end of the day,
and rape can happen in a marriage.
Well, I guess rape could happen if you look at it from that standpoint. It's almost like in the Sexual Offences Act, they have unlawful sexual intercourse for a child who's under 14, but it's the same definition for rape. It's called unlawful sexual intercourse or incest, but it's the same. It has the same meaning. In Section 16, where they talk about, I think they call it sexual assault, but it has the same definition of rape.
And Nishka, let me give you a scenario to maybe help you to have another perspective.
Yeah.
If you are married and you have a wonderful relationship, but for some reason, either your husband is going through something, or he went out with friends, he got influenced or whatever, and he gets stinking drunk, and he comes home and he's just a mess. He cusses at you, he goes crazy, and then he tries to force himself on you. You decide you do not want to. It can become physical, to include assault and rape. So the issue of how you would deal with that in court system is separate and apart from the fact that that would have been rape if he forces himself on you. So there are real instances where rape happens in marriage.
Let me get Cole in there.
Whether or not you can put that into a court system or whether a wife wants to, that's a different issue.
Let me get Cole in there. What's your views right now?
I'll
briefly.
At least from what I've observed, most of the people who are advocating for it aren't married for real.
Mm-hmm.
And the weird part about it is so much technicalities in it. Like how you ladies were saying, once the person says no, then it's rape, right? It goes so far to, if they didn't say yes, it's still rape by that definition. So
because you have to, if it's consent, if consent becomes the issue, then the fact that you didn't say yes could be an issue of consent.
You should know that communication is very nonverbal most of the times. So it does not have to be a permission. It does not have to be, like you said yourself, Anishka, if you're married, then you know that you're living a lifestyle where that includes sex. That doesn't mean that there aren't times when you will say, this is not what I want at this moment. You have the right to do that, both you and your husband.
I accept what you're saying, but understand the point that I think that what I glean that he's making. If you're talking squarely on the point of consent, and it lies on consent or non-consent, you would want to make sure that when you're having sex, the person is in fact saying yes, because that might be your only defense.
But
you're coming from a defensive standpoint, I guess.
But most people who are talking about criminalizing rape is talking about it from a.
I don't think we were ever talking about criminalizing it. You know, he says, is marital rape possible? That was the question. You are coming from a criminal standpoint because you're thinking of a court system.
It's being discussed. Like what is being discussed is that they want to criminalize it. That's what's being really discussed.
That's what it is.
They want to criminalize marital rape. But Cohen, just finish your point.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
How do you prove marital rape?
That's what I was trying.
How do you prove rape?
Because
let me tell you again.
Rape is hard to prove if you're married or not.
And from my experience,
no, the reason why I asked that question is because I could be laying on the side of my husband, and we've had many discord. And this one particular night, he decides to touch me, and I don't feel like being touched that night. I could go to the court to say he raped me, and that didn't have to actually happen, but I could go
You can also bruise yourself and say that your husband beat you. So you're talking about situations when people are very devious and lie. Anybody can do that. It doesn't change because you were raped into the equation.
This can be the ramification of introducing this bill.
And that's
Well, I'm not speaking from a court standpoint or from changing any law. I'm talking about that rape can happen in the marriage.
The reason why I looked at it from a court standpoint, Elle, is because that is what they're making it. They're making it about a court standpoint. They're making it about criminalizing spouses.
Criminalize it.
So you could never have this discussion because that's what the whole discussion is about. You cannot have this discussion without thinking
that's now
about
clear. It wasn't clear before.
Say it again.
That wasn't clear before. Jonathan just clarified it.
Yeah, but like I said, it's almost like, for example, when we talked earlier about the education on transgenderism, at the end of the day, yes, they make these technical points of view as to why it is they're not they're educating our children. But we really know at the end of the day what it's really about. It's about trying to indoctrinate or trying to persuade that this is what you should do. You see what I'm saying? Now, obviously, you would want clarity, and I get that point. For the sake of any discussion, you want clarity. But the reality is that's why from the minute he said that, because if that was only the point that marital rape could happen, or you feel that way, or whatever the case may be, that's okay. But the whole discussion surrounding marital rape comes with criminality.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that.
Oh yeah, it comes. That's all.
Yeah, that's the hot topic. They want to criminalize it.
So I do have a question on that note. Then, if a man rapes his wife for whatever reason, what should be the next step for that person to
what should happen if a woman feels as if she's in a situation where she is the relationship is somehow broken down, right? In most instances, I feel, and I stand to be corrected, but in most instances, I feel there is red flags before that actually happens. Whether or not if your husband is a drunkard or something like that, there's something that's happening in that relationship where it's breaking down. Could we accept that view, or you don't accept that view?
Yes, I accept that view. I just want to know what's the difference between that woman who ignores red flags in a marriage and that woman who ignores red flags and she's not married. But
the
she
fact
gets raped.
is a woman who at the end of the day, technically speaking, if you're dealing with a man who's not your husband, there's no presumption of sex within a relationship where you're not married to an individual.
That has nothing to do with when you're raped.
No, but the point, it goes back to the point. If I have a friend, me and Jonathan are friends, me and Cohen are friends, there's no presumption of sex between me and him.
So my question is, when the woman...
I'm married to Mr. Mystic, there's a presumption of sex between me and him.
When the woman who is married is raped and she says, you know what, this man has a pattern, I'm going to leave him. And she walks away. So she walks out of the marriage. She's no longer married to him. But my question to you is, what happens to that incident where she was raped? Are you saying because they have a marriage relationship, he is not then accountable? Let me finish. He's not accountable to the law like everybody else for raping someone?
No, this is my point. At the end of the day, if there is a breakdown, right? If there is a breakdown somehow, you start to converse with other people and let them know, put in reasonable steps.
Yeah, and after all of the steps are taken, and he now then one night rapes her, and she walks away from the marriage. My question is, does he remain accountable to the law? Or does he not?
In my view, he could be, because at that point, what you've done, if you look at Section 16 of the Sexual Offenses Act, it tells you that if, for example, in the instance where there is a separation decree or there is a legal separation, it gives all these different things.
After or before?
Understand what I'm saying?
After or before the act?
In my view, in a marriage, it has to be some sign.
Yeah, there are signs, and maybe the signs are reported, but I'm saying, what happens when nothing happens until this one incident, when the man forces himself on the wife, she walks away, but at the time when the incident occurred, they were still together, she was not separated, she walked away because of the rape. I'm saying, the next day, when she goes to the police, he gets off because they were married?
But you need evidence in anything, though. In
But you
anything.
need
No, I know.
evidence,
But I'm
really.
just asking.
That's
Let's just
all.
keep
Yeah,
moving,
well,
Timothy.
but
Does he
listen,
get off because they're married?
if you
well, that's
have hold on.
only the jury will be able to answer that
No,
question.
in your opinion, Nishka, if he is proven to have raped her, should he get off as because they're married?
No, he shouldn't.
If they have
Okay.
evidence, though.
I'm not a
I rest
proponent
my case.
of
Of course.
abuse and all that different stuff in no way, shape, or form.
Hold
What
on,
I'm
let me-
saying though is when you look at a marriage, because you have to weigh things. You understand? You have to weigh things. Okay? The pros, the cons, look at everything. I'm simply saying as a married woman, having understanding and then also having understanding what it entails when you're talking about rape means non-consent, right?
Yeah.
Rape means non-consent. That ain't have nothing to do. A lot of people arguing arguing bruises and all that different stuff. That is not rape. Rape is if you do not consent. We could be having loving sex.
I'm talking about an incident where it's rape. I just described an incident of rape.
Penalized. But I'm simply saying that at the end of the day, in a marital situation where the presumption is sex, there should be stages. It should not be treated the way two strangers or two unmarried people are dealt with. That's my belief.
Let me get two guys in here and get it from a male's perspective. Cohen, from a male perspective,
I feel as though because it can cause problems, right? Like one, you guys are expected to have sex, right? So that makes it even more difficult to prove if it's rape or not, because by the definition, and that's how the law is, whatever you could prove, they have all kind of loopholes. The definition of consent, I did not say yes. I don't have to say no, but once I did not say yes, I could say that's rape. I could have been in a bad mood. I could have been sad or whatever. If I did not say yes, then that's rape, right? And
no,
and that's what it is.
No.
Al, if you pay, let me give you an illustration of what he's saying.
Hold on.
Let
him finish. Let him finish.
I know, but I want to make this one point to give an illustration because Al is hard bent on this particular point about what he's saying. When you come into my home, if I have my door closed right now, I don't have to actually tell you, stay out. At the end of the day, if you come, would you just come into my home unauthorized?
There's a big difference between the word consent and the word permission. So I'm not saying that permission has to be verbalized.
What is the
But
difference
when somebody is telling
What's
you
the difference
no
between
and pushing
consent and
you away,
permission?
some rape is violent.
Let me get
non-consent is obvious.
Let me get finish. Hold on. Let's go and finish. Let's get go and finish.
They synonyms. They mean the exact same thing. So there ain't no difference between
What means the same thing?
Consent and
permission.
They mean
Well,
what's the difference?
No, because I think permission means you have to ask first. Consent it doesn't require you to ask. It's like you're saying, if you are in a relationship and you're married, obviously, like you said, that's a part of the relationship. But there are exceptions, and things happen, and relationships break down.
You have to give someone permission to touch you.
Yeah, like if you leave money out and someone just takes your money, I did not give them consent to move that. That's stealing.
Or permission.
Permission to take it is stealing. There's no difference between those two words. It's the exact same thing.
But it's like I'm saying, Anishka said earlier, if you're married, then there's an obvious relationship that you have that includes sex. However, there are things that happen in the marriage that breaks that relationship down. And there are times when that can turn into something else.
And that's why I feel like the law needs to stay away from it, because you like she was saying, you can't judge it the same as two people who ain't in a marriage.
I agree, and it's complicated because it's marriage, but I don't think that it should be dismissed just because it's marriage.
Not
I do think it should be okay.
Section 16 of the Sexual Offenses Act. The Sexual Offenses Act addresses, it doesn't call it rape, but the definition It's the same thing. It's almost like I said, for example, they call with children who do not consent, who cannot consent to sex.
They cannot.
They call it unlawful. They call it unlawful sexual intercourse. But it's the same thing. You've raped a child.
Let me get Ontario in here right quick. And Ontario, what's your views on this quickly before we move on to the last topic?
Y'all can go there. I think they said enough already. But my only view on it is, like you said, I get what Elle is saying, between, even though it's the same meaning, I get what she means by consent and permission, because, and I guess it's the same meaning, Elle, in this case, but I understand what you're trying to say.
It's the same, but consent is a little lighter than the permission requires.
As a married couple, of course, the relationship itself is a consensual relationship. It is a
it's an agreement
relationship. Right. So if you take money out my wallet, it ain't stealing, because use my wife and our money shared, right? Technically, because that's our money, right? That's how
I'm not answering that.
And I get what she's saying.
You're going to look at it a little bit different. The context matters.
Hey, 1 second, listen. But if I say explicitly, hey, Elle,
right,
I give you permission to take any money out my wallet. If you take that money out after I ask you not to remove no money, then stealing. So that's
what I'm saying.
You have consent to move what money we have together, but you do not have permission to touch what I just asked you not to touch. Okay?
As an exceptional case, yes.
Exceptional case. Now, like Cohen said, how can you define it? Because who's to say, unless you got cameras in that bedroom and you watching me do that, who's to say one day you ain't mad and you just want to be a little salty and say, you raped me?
That's the issue. The proof is the issue.
I get that aspect of it. That's why I said, I think, in my personal opinion, if there is an act of marital rape, or if a person believes that they are raped, that's something that it's such a slippery slope that I think it's better to apply and leave that marriage, because ultimately it again could work in the benefit or in the opposite way, unless it's like sodomy or something that is,
which it could be,
explicitly clear that if I say we don't do this and you do that, then again, it goes back to one old saying: the marital bed is undefiled. In most cases, you could never figure out. That's why in most cases, we have an attorney in here. In most cases, a husband's testimony against his wife or wife testimony against
not even permissible.
It's inadmissible in court, because they would say, we don't trust what you're saying. You could be trying to protect or hurt the person because of your feelings, because y'all are in a union together.
Yeah.
So back to that aspect of marital rape, I think that if there is proper evidence of, let's say, for instance, a man said, oh, y'all have a dispute, and I say before I come home, or I send you a message, please do not touch me tonight. I am not in the mood, blah, 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 whatever it is. Or I sleeping in the next bedroom and he busts in the bedroom, or she busts in the bedroom and try to give me a blowjob or something in my sleep. Then I don't know if I could go to the police and say, yo, she raped me. She touched my dick in my sleep. I think that's going to work.
That's not intercourse.
I don't know about y'all as married people, but I would say sometimes the best sex is the makeup sex. After you've had an argument, or you feel like you,
Jonathan,
sometimes
that's
which has nothing to do with rape.
Quick question for the guys. You think if y'all was married and you tell your wife you ain't into nothing tonight, you sleep in the next bedroom, you wake up, she between your leg doing some wonderful stuff, and you go to the police and say she raped me, what you think they could do? They can laugh. They can laugh in your face, right?
But let me say this to you. Let me say something to you guys. Do you know that policemen also laugh at young single girls when they come to report rape? So that's not a good example.
Exactly. So I don't.
So be very careful.
I agree with you there, Elle.
I agree with you, but what I'm saying to you is the likelihood, right? The likelihood.
I'm just saying.
I agree with you there, Elle. Yeah, on that point.
As far as I know, when most of these, I know a lot of guys who get accused and arrested for rapes and things that they didn't do just because sometimes they get catch. Or the gal get catch and she feel like she didn't want everybody to know what happened, so she screamed in some cases. But I've known guys who have gone to the police for not only rape, for abuse, for whatever, and they get laughed at.
Yeah, that's a different issue. That's a problem with the
different issue
judicial system.
So that's why I said that's a very slippery slope. I think that if something happens along, like I said, if it's an actual abuse to that extent, or sodomy, or something that is proven, that has legitimate evidence that you can say, that has tangible evidence, hey, listen, I specifically said No. Or we're in the middle of a divorce, or we're in the middle of a this, or we're in the middle of a dispute, and I said this, I don't want this to happen, and this happened, then that's legitimate. But other than that, like I said, it's very hard
Yeah,
to prove
I agree. I
you have a
agree that
trust.
it's a very complicated issue.
So that's
But it's not hard to prove if you've done what you're supposed to do. Because if at the end of the day, me and my husband are together, and I have shown or reasonable steps that me and this man, our relationship is broken down, where we don't even, we living in two separate rooms, we don't engage in each other, or whatever the case may be. If I'm sure if I present that, a jury might understand that. Well,
Correct.
man and two ain't have no relationship, they only living in the same house.
So like
But
I said,
there
too,
it is,
but
because
you can notice this part too, right? You hear what you just say? You're living under the same roof, paying the same bill. You live in a different room, right? Like I said, you gotta prove to the nth degree, because again,
proof.
you're under the same roof. That's like me saying we ain't together. Now, unless I show
No, a
you,
lot of people
unless I
were
got proof,
separated under the same roof.
unless I no, I'm saying to you again, it's still a slippery
Evidence.
slope, because
It is.
how many people live under the same roof, ain't together,
It's true.
a little night or two, they still
Ontario, I'm simply saying at the end of the day, with the point is, and I guess it goes back to what everyone, and you're saying the same thing really. The consensus is evidence. You just, but you can't treat rape between strangers or rape between a boyfriend and girlfriend the same way you treat it
I agree
in
with that.
marriage.
I agree.
What you got real quick before we move on? We moving on.
Yeah, because Jesus Christ, I can even get my point across, but okay.
Oh, jeez. Now you stop it.
Are you serious?
Yeah, please let him finish his point before he talk with me and talk with us.
Go on, close it up real quick from that last. You have the floor to the last. You ain't on this no more. Go ahead, Cole.
Honestly, about it, I don't think, unless you separated and going like y'all separated or going to us, I don't even think we need to mention the rape thing, because it just don't make sense to me. And I feel so once you say my husband divorce right from, and he didn't know, oh, he raped me, but I can forgive him. We can work. Nah, that completely, because you have too much people, and you talk to police and they say this. People who ain't married, they'll say, oh, this was me, and the police go and try and deal with it or whatever. But then the next, like how are they supposed to know like how to deal with this if you can keep going back? You know what I mean?
Yeah, domestic relationship is something most. You're right.
You know? All right, the last question is the last question for tonight.
Yeah.
This topic is
please let Fox finish his point before he talk bad with me.
He can talk about my job. But listen, all right, this for the I want the men.
I can listen to your point.
I want the men answer this questions first. Ontario and Cohen and Dominica. Nassim. I want Ontario, Cohen, and then Dominica, and then what? Luke. Here's the question. Who's playing with the mic? What is this? Let me know when you finish playing with the mic. All right, here's the question. Men, listen. Dominica, listen. Ladies, listen. If a man tells you beforehand that he does not want a child, and down the line you all do the deed and you get pregnant, he then provides you with money to get an abortion. Well, you know, it's not legal in the Bahamas, but anyway, you need a loan. He provides you with money to get an abortion. You take the money, still have the child. Is the father a bad person or a deadbeat if he doesn't want anything to do with that child? Hold on, before you answer, hold on. You all hear the question? Did you all hear the question?
Yep.
All right, hold on.
Gets pregnant, he tells her that he is not ready to have a child. She still chooses to have the baby.
Okay, so a lot of times we need to take accountability for our actions and our own choices. And so we both was messing around. We knew we weren't in a committed relationship. We knew nothing was going to come of it. You expressed to me already that you did not want to have a child, or you did not want to take care of a child. At that moment, I have a choice. You can go down to the clinic. I don't know where y'all's is at. Ours is on 8th. Or you know, you make that decision on being a single mother and knowing that this other party is not going to be there. So that anger is misplaced. Because he was honest in the beginning. And it's hard sometimes to take accountability because we both did it, right? So you think we both should be in this, but the reality and the harsh reality is a man does have an opportunity to walk away, and you need to make the best decision for you and your child.
Yeah. I think hope is a bad strategy. I hope he gets his shit together. I hope he eventually gets a job. I hope he comes around and raises kids. Hope is a bad strategy.
Yeah.
So if the hope plan is the plan A in this situation, it's a bad one, okay?
So, Ontario first, Fox. These two firecrackers, they're gonna do last.
So yeah, on that note, I agree that, like I said, if it's twofold, but if you could be having sex, you should be prepared for it, especially if it's unprotected. However, if that woman accepts the money to get an abortion, she takes that money and she is in agreement of what it is or the term that I have stated, then
Even beforehand, he
no,
told
I
you.
said I heard you. So
Yeah.
if I tell you beforehand I don't want kids, we have sex, whatever, unprotected or protected, and something happens, and you get pregnant, and I offer you money for an abortion, and you take said funds for that abortion, but you do not abort the child, that's your child. I understand the principle of it, but personally, I probably would still, knowing me, I'd still take a damn child. I don't think I would ever neglect the child from that aspect. However, I don't feel like it would be the responsibility of another man if he does that. That's my personal opinion. I don't feel like it should be his responsibility, especially if he expresses that. So
what?
Hold on, Fox. Go on.
And I agree with that, because at the end of the day, when you realize the consequence can be heavier on you, like, you have to move accordingly to that. Like the same thing with guys. If we decide we can be paying for this girl to be doing all kinds of stuff, let's say even outside of the baby stuff, and this woman just run off with my money, I can't go to nobody and blame anyone. I'm the one I lost. I just have to take that loss and move on. So it's the same thing. If you knew ahead of time this man didn't want it, right? Exactly. You still agreed to mess with him. You are the one that gets pregnant, not him. And then you get pregnant. Now you want to act like, oh well, you have to be out. That makes no sense. I don't know.
No woman gets pregnant, by the way.
I want to say, hold on. Let me say
Hold on
one more
now.
thing. Let me say one more little thing to this, and I just want to give all these women a wonderful comparison, so that they could feel.
Hit and run.
Let's
Goodbye,
imagine.
material.
Huh? Fine. I can say this. I can give you a one little comparison. Let's imagine me and you get together today. I see a house in Ocean Club I like, right? But you can only afford a house in Camp Road. I go get a mortgage in me and your name for the house in Ocean Club, and then I bail out on you and I leave you with the mortgage to pay for yourself. Now you carry on with your sentence. There you go.
Hold on. Before you hold on. Cool, you finish?
I was like, it's just like, okay, the reason why, and I think why this makes sense, is because the man has no say what the woman does with her body. That's basically what's happening now, right? If them two sleep together, she gets pregnant. If she decides I want to abort this baby, and the man doesn't want to, he has no say. Regardless of how he feels. So how is it that we could say the woman makes the final decision on that, but then if the guy say from beforehand, I don't want it, he is in the wrong? That makes no sense. That's very hypocritical. And women like say, oh, but that's literally sexist if we really being real. So that really doesn't make sense. You get to decide if the baby live or die, and no name called to you. But if I decide I don't want me and this child, like before the even child come, and I label as a deadbeat, no, bro, that's a bunch of foolishness.
Dominica, how you feel? If the man told you beforehand, you guys agreed not to have, if whatever.
No, you didn't say agreed. You said he told me.
Yeah, he told you beforehand. All right, he told you beforehand.
I would like to know, what did she say?
To be honest with you, I'm actually on the fence with it, simply because if you and I are having unprotected sex, the end result
you said it again.
If a man and a woman is having consensual, unprotected sex, the end result can be pregnancy. Whether you prepared to pay for an abortion or not, you went into that situation knowing that if you don't wrap it up, baby could come. So if you know that, you should be prepared at the end of the day to man up to your responsibility. Now, if I be the person that say, I can take your money and bring forth this child, and you tell me you don't want to have anything to do with that, then that on me. I have to bite that bullet. But at the end of the day, you should be man enough to assist me. You don't have to have nothing to do with the child, but you should assist in taking care of that human that you help make. That's my standpoint on it.
Hold on, Ontario. What do you say about that point which she just made just now? You're on mute.
I heard what she said. I still refer her to my Ocean Club mortgage comment that if we voted that we could afford a house in Canberra, that's all you got.
You signing with me for that house?
Yes, listen to what I just say.
Am I the primary holder, or am I a co-signer?
Hey, listen to what I just say to you.
No, answer that question. That's how I can determine whether or not you could leave me with that bill.
Because listen to what I just say. Me and you sign on the bill, you know. Listen to what I just say.
So coming after you too.
No, listen. You signed for Camp Road. I sign up for Ocean Club. You sign up for 100,000. I sign up for $1 million, okay? And then what I do is, when you then say we getting this, I sign up for you and I bring you the $1 million bill, and then I leave you with the $1 million bill to help me pay for something that you didn't even want. That you tell me you can't afford. That you tell me you are it's out of your scope, out of your class. You got to work for 3 generations.
I don't get it. Take that house, then they can take that house. They can take that house.
Exactly, so they can take your baby too, because you gonna get a baby with a man who ain't want it. So you could take your baby.
That is the consequences. At the end of the day, it's still a consequence.
Well, he is not. I don't think that the man. I don't think that, like I said, listen to the scenario again, because like I said, if you are having sex with a person and in fact, before even open your leg, before I pull something out, I say to you, I don't want no kids. You say, me too, child. Me too. That's what y'all started it out. We agreed to no kids. All right? That's one. After you get pregnant, we agreed to no kids, and I give you abortion money. You got the money that you accepted to kill the kid or to get rid of the situation. You chose not to do that. You decided. You was one, all right? You decided to have the kid, okay? So now
where's the feedback?
You done tricked me twice. So now you go, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, you on your own. The whole point is, if you decided to go after all of that to still make this child, you have accepted the term that this man has already said, I cannot afford the child. I have no interest in this. I cannot do this. And I am giving you the money so that you could alleviate my stress and yours at the same time. You stressing yourself out now.
I agree.
That's all I'm saying.
Wow.
It has to be that now. If we didn't agree to that, if we just had some sex together and then after we have sex and I done do all that, then after all that I come and say, well, now that I think about it, I don't want no babies. Now that's a decision. That's a different scenario.
Yeah. That's different.
A completely different scenario, because you could then say, you know what? Well, it's in my body, and like you the old comment, my body, my choice, my responsibility. Because you have that now. You could take me anywhere and say, I need the money for this child because we did that. We made that child. I didn't tell you I didn't want a child beforehand. That's a big difference.
But who would be in the wrong in a situation like that, where guy said I don't want no kids. The woman shut up and say that, hey, I still want to have a kid, so I ain't gonna say that. Let me see if I can still get pregnant. If you didn't voice, the man said his part, you didn't voice your part at all. You just stay quiet. Know that if you get pregnant, you still want to have this kid. Who in the wrong in that situation?
Yeah,
the woman.
So so that's what we're saying now. If you didn't know, like how Ontario said, if you didn't say that out, whatever, and all end up conceiving and having a kid, then bro, take care of your responsibility. But if I say from the start and you have some niggas who they'll work on them and it breaks, and
that's what I'm saying,
and nothing you could do.
So let me flip that same question.
All right, y'all already said enough.
No, I answer the marriage question. Let me ask a question. If I taking care of this child that's now present by myself, you didn't want that. You didn't want any children. 10 years down the line, you decide it's time for you to have a child. You still abandoning the first child? Are you still gonna abandon the first child?
Ooh, now you got a little interesting perspective.
I have a comment.
Go ahead, Laurie.
Go
Ellie.
ahead. Go ahead, Al.
So I'm trying to contain my
I know.
shock.
I know you and this
Okay.
papa.
So first of all, Jonathan, my question to you is: when the gentleman says to the lady, "I don't want any children," what does the lady say to the gentleman?
They agreed that all that was an agreement.
No. There was an agreement.
That's what he said at the beginning. There was an agreement.
Right. I came to you
No,
before.
he didn't say that at first.
Yes,
he
I
did.
said it.
He said it.
Okay, so following the agreement, I'm going to go with the comment that was made earlier that even though you agree to something, there is always a risk because there is no contraception that is 100% guaranteed. So even though you make an agreement, you still have a risk. Okay? And there's a story about Drake and a condom and hot sauce, I think. And a lot of people laughed at it. But let me just say this. He did the right thing. Because you know what he did? He protected his seed at all costs. And that's y'all's job.
But hold on, you know that, but you know if
protect your seed.
Hold on, you know if she,
the woman though. Not
but
taking
if he got, but if she got pregnant, he was still
that's your seed.
He should have to say sprouts apart. You know that, right?
Sorry.
If she was able to extract that that semen and insert it in herself, and if there's no hot sauce present, he still would have to be responsible on the hook for that child.
And he should be, because that's his seed.
What?
Wow.
Listen to me. Listen, girl. Let me tell you.
No. You already had your turn. Let me explain something to you. You are a man, and that woman cannot get pregnant. Only you can impregnate her. If you are careless with the seed that impregnates her, whereas you put it in place, guys, and wait a minute, if you put it in place where she can retrieve it and use it and have your child, that is your seed that you did not protect. I'm sorry, but that's what it is.
Laurie, Ellie, suppose she raped me. Suppose she raped me, Elle. That ain't rape.
My name is
condom. That ain't voluntary. That's rape.
I'm not talking about rape. We were talking about the question that Jonathan asked. And he said that if two people engage and they, in their mind, decide they're not having children, some couples agree not to have children, and they both get pregnant. They both have to take the responsibility, even though they didn't foresee having a child.
Ellie, you just say if the gal take siphon, come out a condom, he should be responsible for it? After
that's his child.
That's trickery.
What I'm wondering,
it is trickery. But you're in a relationship with a woman who practices trickery. That's your choice.
No. That's why you gotta see.
I just want to know.
You chose her though.
No, he didn't choose her to have no baby. He chose the condom.
You chose her to do what? Babies come from that.
Babies come from the garbage?
Yeah, that's where you put the condom.
Go on. Jump in right quick before I get the next talk. Go on.
Is at what point do you give the woman any accountability?
That's what I think.
Okay, let me answer that.
I didn't get my question answered.
No, we're coming back to you, Dominica, in a second.
I got my question answered.
I forget it. I just we gotta hear what Ellie trying to. Jesus.
She pretty much saying we don't have no accountability. That's
all.
That's all.
No. Let me answer this question. A pregnancy is 50% the man and 50% the woman. So they are each responsible for whatever happens if they both willfully go and engage in sex.
Hey, Ellie.
That's a risk they both take. If a baby happens, they're both responsible equally.
I got one scenario for you. Let me just squeeze this in right quick, right? Let's just say you sleep, the woman is sleeping in bed, right? And the guy just happened to slip some sperms in her while she's sleeping. She don't want no kids. She's sleeping. He used a little turkey baste or whatever, and he put some cum in there from her just in her sleep, right? She is completely unaware. And 3 months later, she found out she's pregnant. Now she got to carry
this. Is this a rape situation?
It ain't rape because he didn't put his dick in her. He used a baster to put some semen inside her vagina.
So it's okay. So they're not in a relationship.
That wasn't consensual.
It was not consensual. He just put some semen inside.
Okay, so there are rape pregnancies all the time. That's a rape pregnancy. That's rape. That's rape.
Pretty much the general.
That is rape.
That's unconscious rape.
Jonathan, go to Dominica question.
Yeah,
please.
Dominic, what your question was again?
How was that rape if Drake's situation wasn't going to be rape?
That's what I tried to say. That's rape.
Sorry?
If Drake's situation wasn't going to be rape, where she went in the garbage and took
Drake and the woman had consensual sex. Don't do it.
No, Drake didn't have consent. He didn't have a
Yes, they
consensual
did.
release. He did not have a consensual ejection. He didn't put it in there. He put it in the garbage.
No, but they had consensual sex.
No,
and
no,
he
no. But
protected his seeds. That
hold
was
on.
good.
Let's get this part. Let's get this part.
So glad
if my release, if my sweet jewel juice is put in the trash, if you go in there and dig that out the trash and you decided to turn one man's trash into your treasure, you are responsible for the garbage you make.
You are.
Because ain't nobody do that. That's you.
You go to the court with that story, and the court will say to you, Ontario, you are the father, and you have to give this child support.
But
Go to the court with that story.
Women don't have no accountability when it comes to nothing.
DNA. That's how they decided you're the daddy.
No
The general
accountability.
consensus says women don't have no
DNA.
Sorry,
Dominic,
what's your question again? Sorry, let's get back to that.
My question was, if at this present time you don't want any children, and I go ahead and you use the abortion money for something else, and I bring forward this child that you don't want any kids. You've already made that quite clear. 10 years down the line, you have a child, the same child that you did not want. Will you still neglect the 10-year-old child that is currently living?
They're still responsible.
I think
They were always responsible, even when they said no.
I think it's up to the child. If the child wants you in their life at that point because you already gave up your
But are you, as a father who did not want any children when the child was born,
It's up to the child?
Yeah, as far as creating a relationship, because if you abandon the child over 10 years now, you could come back, but it's up to that child if he wants to or she wants to engage or even recognize you as a father figure for them, that you give up your right to even
Dominica, they're responsible at conception and they're responsible 10 years later.
No,
here's my answer to that.
We saying if you still abandon the child, you could try to be in a child life, but if they don't want a relationship with you, what are you supposed to do?
No, I agree with Cohen. I understand Cohen's perspective. I'll say this to Dominica. If you as the mother communicate, and I would hope that this is what would happen, that it would be clearly communicated to that child. Hey, listen, initially, and it may sound disturbing, your dad wasn't prepared, and this.
Oh my God.
No, for real. To be fair. Hey, I went ahead and I had you because I wanted to, and we didn't intend to make you, and blah blah blah. Now you have to say that.
10-year-old child.
You have to say it's the truth. What you could do? Hey, here's your daddy who abandoned you for no reason. Your daddy's trash.
But you did. You abandoned the child. You don't get to abandon the child.
No,
you are responsible for the child. Nobody asked you what you wanted when you were having sex. It's a risk.
He did not abandon the child. Before
You didn't want a risk. You did not want the child.
Listen to what I'm saying, please.
You did not take your responsibility.
He didn't want one. You gave it to him.
Listen to what I just say.
No, he gave it to himself.
No.
He didn't ejaculate. You did.
You know what I could do? I could tell you I could get a mortgage in your name and let you pay the bill, and then you see how much responsibility.
I would love that.
To pay
You
your
pay for like the first 3 years.
No, what I'm trying to say is,
I'll pick it up from there.
What I'm trying to say is, right, in the case of this, right, I think that one, especially in this case, especially depending on age and circumstance, the mother has to communicate that to her child. And I know it may sound very harsh, but truth is, let me finish. The truth is the truth. You had the child. The daddy didn't abandon. He didn't abandon. Before the child was ever born, he abandoned the notion of having. Please.
I think that would cause more
He abandoned the child.
Listen, y'all will let someone finish the whole sentence.
Finish. Go ahead, finish.
He abandoned the notion of having a child without ever seeing that child.
No, he abandoned the child.
No, he didn't. Oh, listen, finish, Ontario.
He abandoned his sperm. Right?
No, his sperm turned into a child.
Listen.
And he knew that there was a child, and he still abandoned the child.
Let's revise the scenario here, okay? All adults here, we're gonna revise the scenario. I come in you. What did I just release? Sperm. And I tell you, from the very moment I release that cum, I don't want whatever that cum is gonna produce. I didn't abandon a boy.
Oh, I can't press on this one.
Sperm, huh?
I can't cuss, so I can't do Ontario.
I abandoned
Because you
the
can't put nothing in
sperm
me
that
and tell
I
me you don't
released.
want it in me.
I
You
abandoned
can't do that.
1 million. I abandoned 1 million sperms. That's what I just did. I don't know
You
how much is gonna come out of you.
abandon your
That's one.
responsibility.
So if 10 years down the line I am fine,
Once
I
you
am
release your
absolutely
sperm to
prepared.
the woman, you lose control of your sperm by your choice.
Hold on. Remember the
And
primary
you are
question.
responsible for the children that come from that child. And if she were to take a DNA test, the court will decide that you are the father and that you have to give
Okay,
her
so let me
support
ask
for
you,
the
in a
child.
case like that, in a case like this, Dominica, let me ask you another question. Dominica, sorry. If he comes back and he says he wants custody of that 10-year-old child, what you can say? No?
He can fight for that.
Yes?
This is right.
No, I'm asking you, what you think? You think he should get it?
That's his right.
Me personally, you can't have custody of my child. That's
Yeah.
mine.
Okay, so let's ask, based on what
We
my friend
determined
El-
that from the
Hold
child
on.
born. And when you say you
Based
didn't
on what
want
El-
it, that's
based
mine.
on what El just said, right? Based on what El just said, I give you one little thing, right? If I take $1 and I put it in a soda dispenser and I get a Pepsi, right? Does the Pepsi belong to the soda dispenser or to the person?
You know what?
That's all I gotta say.
You
Y'all
started
don't
to
play.
compare a child to a house. We should have stopped you. A child and a house and a soda can are not comparable, please. Thank you.
No, what I'm trying to say is, you put the money
Not the
in.
child, no.
You put the money in the machine. Hold on. You put the money in the vending machine.
Computer on 5%.
Dominica, you put the money in the. I put the money in the vending machine to get a soda, right?
Yeah.
So when the soda come out, that's my soda, right? That ain't the vending machine soda.
It
You
is.
put the soda. That's my soda.
It's not apples
Right,
and
so
apples. That doesn't make any sense, Ontario.
Hey, John, what I find out, right? How do women feel about a woman who decides to get an abortion?
Well, they fine with that. They fine with that. She's not a deadbeat.
Now let me just if I may, let me just say my point.
That's a whole show.
Yeah, that's a personal
That's a whole
decision.
show.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Miss. Hold on.
That's a whole show.
First of all,
we about to wrap up soon.
my
Go ahead.
personal views. My personal view is it's you know if a child is born, I mean unless it's really some medical situation of harm, perhaps to the mother, abortion should be a last resort. Okay. But that hinges on my ultimate view, which is this: we have to be more responsible as adults when we're bringing children, because this may sound funny, but a lot of this is going on. Because at the end of the day, the truth is, from many stories, babies don't keep no man. And while we have an ideal situation about, oh yeah, you are responsible and all that different stuff, you can look around you every day and see that does not change if somebody feels like they're not going to be with you. Because why a person has sex with a woman or vice versa may not even be because of anything permanent. It might be just simply because I want to have a fun time. You understand? The bottom line is we have to be realistic in this time and age. When you're bringing a child into this world, what type of circumstance you're bringing a child in, and that's the first responsible question, or the first responsible point from the beginning. Okay, because quite frankly, I'm sick of seeing, even right now, if you go to the orphanage or you go to not the orphanage, these children's home, there are a lot of children who don't have both parents. Most of our children ideally need both parents to really feel that love. Okay. And all this baby mama having baby here, and then all this, that ain't, it's a disaster. And right now,
but this is the problem here, Nishka. This is the problem here, where the fathers start thinking that they don't have a responsibility for the children that they give birth to.
But understand this. I believe I have my 3 children are 16, 12, and 4. And I believe they equally love me. But guess what? If by some happenstance I find myself in an emergency situation and my 4-year-old is in that car, she is incapable of driving that vehicle to get me the type of help that I need, or even administering some CPR or whatever to be able to assist me. And it's just like that with a male or even a female. Not everyone is necessarily who doing these things have the mentality or that comes with it in terms of the responsibility. Okay? And that's my vantage point with all of this. First of all, you don't need to be having no bunch of sex, unprotected sex with somebody if you aren't willing to have a child. This an old story. This ain't nothing new. Okay? And many of our men today, or many of our women, you end up getting stuck with this child. Because for us, even though you say it's 50-50 with the pregnancy, you carry that child and you born with that child from there in the womb, pretty much. Okay. And my thing is, at the end of the day, you bring a child into the world only to be feeling rejected or feeling like, because you're making some flimsy decision. If a man isn't ready to have a child, how could you force him from a real view? Some women are having children and need not have children. They're not responsible. You understand? So I take it from that particular standpoint. When you're talking about children, bringing children in these relationships, we need to really, really consider what we're doing when we bring children into these very unhealthy situations.
Listen. There's a lively discussion, but it's late. So I once again thank you everybody for their time. I'm gonna wrap up because I was gonna go get some need, but I ain't doing that no more. But everybody have their closing statements before we wrap up.
Listen, your show is only but an hour. Sometimes I see it going over a little 2 hours, right? But I mean, my mind and yapping on. I want to finish this debate, and I want row, and I want to hear what they all got to say.
I have a quick statement,
the guys. But thank you. It was an interesting discussion.
Go ahead, Al. Hold on. Al said she wanted to say something. Go ahead, Al. Can she hear?
She right here.
Can't say nothing. No, she's scared.
Yeah, just a quick statement is I think that as we're talking about who's responsible when the child is here, I really think that we.
That's must be God right there. That makes me God. Dominica, you have any closing comments?
Oh, Jesus.
No?
I almost could guarantee what Al was going to say.
Hold on.
Once a child is here, it's responsibility. Let me say it first, and then you repeat it, because I sure that's what you was going to say. If the child comes, it's the responsibility of both parents.
No, let me say what I was going to say. So I think we have to take the conversation back before when the child actually is conceived and birthed. I really think we have to realize that this discussion is really way before, and it goes to the act. Right when you said a man can say that I don't want, but he should follow that up with, he does not allow for a woman to get pregnant as best as he can, which means protect himself from pregnancy at all cost, so that he knows that he did everything that he could to prevent a pregnancy. Don't leave it to the responsibility or to try to toss it onto a woman who you're not married to. So quite obviously, you cannot dictate what she does to her body or to the child if you release your seed to her. So I think we have to realize that this conversation has to happen, and these thoughts have to happen before a pregnancy actually happens. The man has to be responsible enough to know that, listen, I am in control of whether or not this woman gets pregnant, and I can ensure that she doesn't as best as I can. That's my take on that.
It's still on her, though. It is not only on the man.
It's on both.
It's on both.
And I said that earlier. It's 50-50.
Yeah.
But it's him that doesn't want it. So I'm saying for the person who doesn't want it, he really has to be the one, if he doesn't want it, to make sure it doesn't happen. He's not married to her. Suppose she wants it. So my thing is, she can do it if you give it to her. So don't do it. Don't allow her what she needs to get pregnant. Don't make her pregnant.
What I'm getting from this whole discussion is we don't have no accountability, and it's all on the man.
No, that's not what's being said.
Oh, come on.
Let me ask the guys. Hold on. Let me ask the guys.
Really though.
Hold on. Cohen, how do you feel about that?
That's exactly what it is. Because at the end of the day, the woman could be as manipulative, as conniving, as whatever she wants. Once the man.
No, but you're not married to her. So what I'm saying is the two of you obviously not. Come on.
The woman ain't married to him either, right? Why would you want a child with a man who says straight out?
That's your business. Why would you not want a child? But if you don't want the child, then don't give up your seed.
But What I'm saying is, if we use the Drake situation as an example, he put hot sauce inside his condom and threw it away. He should not have to put hot sauce in a condom.
But he did, and he did whatever he thought he had to do,
It's
and I think that
necessary
that's
to prevent a
awesome.
pregnancy.
You're missing the point because that you're not holding a woman accountable. You can go in the garbage to
Accountable for what? She didn't say she didn't want a child. That's what the man said.
Ooh, what a sex.
She didn't say that. The man said that. Don't let her have your child.
Hold on.
It doesn't. The woman ain't in the wrong. Once she get hold of that sperm, no matter how she get it, the man in the wrong.
That's what she's saying. Pretty much, women are not accountable, regardless of if they go in the garbage.
Okay, let me clarify. A woman is not accountable if the man carelessly releases his seed. He don't know where his seed is.
So the woman could be irresponsible. She could be irresponsible, but buddy,
if I tie that condom and put it inside the garbage, and you go scrummaging through the garbage, that's not me being irresponsible. That's
ridiculous. But some women are ridiculous, and if they're ridiculous, you don't want to be ridiculous with them. Do not let that woman have your child.
Ontario.
That's a careless woman.
Ontario.
Don't let her have your child.
Ontario.
Put the hot sauce in the condom.
I know.
I understand now what Elle is saying, and that's the reason for the theme here, because there's a lot of devilish things going on with these women. Them.
Oh my God.
I agree with him, because like he said, there's no based on what you're expressing, Elle. It's showing that there is no perceivable responsibility that women are asked to share.
No, let me clarify that.
No,
let me clarify that. Let me clarify that, please.
Ontario, finish. Go ahead.
I got you. I understand what you said. I'm agreeing with you too. That yes, we as men need to protect ourselves from the spawn of the devil that is trying to go.
But y'all are part of the devil because you're having sex. You're having sex with a woman you're not married to.
Elle, come on, let me finish this. Elle, that's how I got to come in this conversation. Demon time. So we have to protect ourselves as men from these women because they are out. Some of them are really not good, and they will get you if they could. And if you do not want a baby as a man, like Elle say, go to the 10th degree. Use a vacuum if you're finished. Suck it out.
Please.
Do something.
Flush it.
Please.
Flush it.
Douche it. Whatever you
put bleach in the water.
Do
that.
Spray alcohol in the condom. Do all of it, okay? Pour something down the hole when you finish. But the point is, what I'm saying, protect yourself, gentlemen, from these women. You can't. And women,
they don't come no accountability.
None, because again, the law and society admits that there is no shared accountability. Because if she don't want it, she gets to get rid of it, and if you don't want it, she could keep it. And if you say if you don't put it in her, she could put it in and make you have it. And if you
start bringing children in, all these children in the world who do not have, if as much as possible.
That's right.
I agree.
Have a secured and loving home.
Agreed, Anishka.
Stop spreading eagles.
2-parent family too.
Stop spreading eagles.
We need to push that. We really need to push that.
Ladies,
really so.
And stop having sex with women you don't trust.
Stop spreading eagle for people who don't want to fly with you, okay?
But don't women give access though? Men, we talking about rape initially. Women give access. So
to sex or pregnancy? Which one?
Both.
Yeah, but what I'm saying to you, Jonathan, is if you have a man and a woman, and the woman doesn't mind having children, but the man adamantly doesn't want the child. See, that's where you have the difference. Then it is on him to make sure that this woman, he don't even know if she wants a child or not. Make sure that she doesn't have his child. That's what I'm saying. What if that woman doesn't mind having a child? You can't depend on her. You two are not in a marriage or in a relationship where you've made these sort of commitments. So make sure that your seed does not produce a child. That one there is just your responsibility.
That's all. You have one thing. Man, we have one job to do. We have one job. Don't let them get pregnant. Put on 3, 4 if you got to. Cover yourselves up.
Please say that again.
Or else you could be stuck with the bill.
Preach that from the mountaintop.
Go in last couple seconds. Go. The general consensus I'm hearing is, but he's all on the man.
I married.
If he doesn't want the child.
I good because it does. Like we have situations where a woman would say, "I don't want no children." The minute she get pregnant, she keep it. Like it's so. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the woman do. It's just on the man. I good. Good night.
Anyhow, Anushka, Al, you boy. Anyhow, Ontario. Thank you for calling. Listen, anyhow, you straight. You're all straight. So for the men out there you watching, buddy, wrap it up like Ontario say, wrap it up a couple times. Or don't do it or use jargons.
Yes, please.
Mommy wrap it.
Ontario, we must need to start up the clubhouse stuff again because this interested.
This be honest.
But if you all started up, please invite me because I want to participate.
Never, honestly, this is the first time I've ever had a direct response from a woman that literally speaks to the alleviation of all responsibility.
All responsibility.
They are void of it. They have the ability, not that you're saying it, but you have just spoken to the reality that women and society has women void of responsibilities. That's real truth. That is crazy, you know.
This was men talk about in the barber shop. Right here, like, buddy, it's on men. Buddy, it's always the man's fault, regardless of what it is. It's the man's fault.
We are the head in all things. You're right. We are the head, not the tail. That's right.
You quiet, Nishka. You're saying nothing.
I didn't say my piece.
Anyhow, you guys, good night. Thank you once again.
Good night. Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Elmo ready to continue to fuss. Yeah, go on. Good night.
Okay.